All right, guys. Jameson and Alex here, coming to you with an overview of the most recent book, the Wild Beyond the Witchlight adventure campaign setting.
Mm-hmm. I emphasize, adventure book.
This is definitely an adventure book.
Yeah,
we'll go over that in a moment.
Is the emphasis there.
But we are starting a new round of giveaway for the D&D Beyond Players Bundle. We just did the giveaway winner earlier, so make sure you check that out, and a channel update as well. For
maybe it was you.
Planned. Yeah, maybe. Congratulations if it was you.
If not, better luck next time.
Next time. But we'll jump straight into this. Just a quick overview of the kind of things in the book. If it's really worth it as a player, as a DM, what our general thoughts are. Obviously, the book just came out, recording the day it came out.
Yes.
So we've kind of skimmed through most of it, not fully read through everything.
Right.
But from our first impressions, at least, looking at this book, it is, as Alex and I have mentioned, it is definitely an adventure book. Mm-hmm. I do have a few thoughts about the actual adventure itself, which I'm not going to spoil anything. I'll save those comments in a minute.
So there are a couple extra character things you do get for a character creation side for yourself as a player. As most adventure guides, they lean more toward DM things because they are adventures for content to be able to run, campaign stories with. You do get 2 new races. If you remember back a little while ago, they did a Fey-themed UA that had some different races in it. I believe there was 4 races in that UA. 2 of them made it into this book, being the fairy and the Harengon. If you cut off the last 4 of those letters, you just get hare, which would be what they are. They are rabbit folk.
Yes. It was renamed from rabbit folk probably because they figured they could copyright Harengon, but not rabbit folk. That'd be my guess.
Because the rabbit folk would be too generic.
There was the owl folk, which was cut, which was probably my favorite.
Yes.
And the Fey Hobgoblin was the other one that was cut.
Yeah.
So.
Which is more like a reflavored, kind of like how there's Tiefling and then the Feral Tiefling kind of thing. Just a variation of that race, but with 3 new races. And like Jameson, I'm upset that the owl folk didn't make it because owls are cool. They just are. The fairy still keeps the Fey creature type. The hare's humanoid. They do get some interesting.
They did make some little changes
from the UA,
which we'll do videos on.
Right. Fairy does keep the flight. The hares have a really cool jump for a disengage, but there's already been some controversy around the disengage. But we'll cover that more in the other video. So definitely 2 unique races in terms of flavor. What they provide some unique abilities that may help them stand out. Something I do bring up anytime we have a new book or any kind of a new add-on is that if we're just putting new stuff in there just to do it, it needs to feel unique. How does it stand out so it feels like it's worthy of being in an official book? Definitely uniqueness enough is fine there. 2 new backgrounds as well with the Feylost and the Witchlight Hand. Feylost is kind of like somebody who's not supposed to be in the Feywild, but they somehow got there. They spent too much time there, so they've been affected by being in the Feywild, even though they're not maybe naturally from the Feywild. So they have like a visible quirk of being touched by the Fae, essentially. And the Witchlight Hand is kind of like a carny. Yeah. A Feywild carny is in like someone who has worked at a carnival, traveling circus kind of thing. Very much, that's on the nose, shorthand of what it is. Right. So there's, again, both of them some interesting flavor to create that especially fits in with this adventure. It all ties in pretty well together with what they offer here with those 2 things.
Yes. And then a few minor things that can be touched on. There's the option for Feywild Trinkets. It just is a big table of random things that you can find, or some of the, there's some things that can be tied to those based on the actual campaign itself, which, like I said, I'm not going to spoil too much or dive too much into the actual super details of the campaign. Sure. But there's some tie-ins there that could be had, or just some fun little things, like thimble that helps you daydream when you wear it, or a 1-inch square painting of a sleeping elf. Just weird stuff, kind of like how in Ravenloft they did the same kind of thing with the horror trinkets. I think that's what they called them. Mm-hmm. But just a bunch of random things that are just outlandish, carnival themed, Fae themed. Yeah. All kinds of strange things. Petrified robin's egg, tiny book of fairy tales, set of false wooden teeth, all kinds of shenanigans. So if you're into that kind of thing,
just stuff there for flavor and RP purposes that you can have maybe some fun encounters, engagements with, and social interactions and exploration stuff.
One thing I do like a bit here, it's very simple, but they kind of give specific traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws that help your character tie into the campaign.
Yeah.
They did something similar with Ravenloft, though that was not exactly a campaign adventure. It was more of a setting.
A setting, yeah.
So it was more open-ended. But for this, when you do the adventures, I think it's kind of important to have some kind of tie-in.
Sure.
It just makes everything tie together a little bit easier, I think. So it's nice that they do that kind of thing. One thing that they've mentioned a lot about, which I tried to look through the book, and I was hoping they were going to have a whole section on it, but they don't. They talked about how you could go through this whole campaign essentially just RPing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they said that they were going to have different rules about RPing through encounters and stuff, but glancing through it, there's not really. I thought they were going to have a section on how special scenarios and things to help you do certain checks or
ways
maybe
you can
roll on tables.
You can talk your way through things, or
But they don't really have that, so I was a little disappointed on that side of things. I think this is definitely leaned heavily towards DMs. It's not going to make a ton of sense as a player probably to get this book, just because, as Alex said, there's only the 2 backgrounds, and the 2 races. Now, if you're on D&D Beyond, I think you can get those individually. Like, you can buy the individual things if you really wanted to have it and you'd be able to use it on D&D Beyond. I think you can buy those individually. So that might make more sense than buying the whole book if you're just a player.
If you're just a player, yeah.
But to be fair, this is actually a really interesting concept. It's a milestone campaign adventure, which I do prefer to do. That I started off, as most people do, doing XP, and that is a headache to track and
math.
And it's like, if they RP more, you have to make home rules as to how to get XP and stuff. It's just milestones are nice to have, and they've kind of done that more often in the last several adventure books. But with that, it's supposed to be level 1, and it says if they do all of these things, they could reach level 8. It's very open-ended because it's like, if they do this thing, they gain a level. If they interact with this person, they get a level. So it's a little bit more open-ended on that side of things, which is interesting. But essentially, it starts off in a carnival, and that's a big section. And then some shenanigans happen. Don't want to spoil anything again. Yeah. And things break off, and it's kind of trying to figure out what's going on from there.
One of my interesting, they just a fun little way they phrase things. They have regions called hither, thither, and yon. Yes. Which is that's fun.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. One other thing that I'm a little disappointed by is, a lot of times my favorite thing to look at with adventure books is the new magic items and the new monsters.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of either, honestly. Yep. If you guys want to see us do a video on either of those things, let us know. But most of the things on here are, when it comes to the monsters, most of them are NPCs that are directly tied into the story, which you probably don't want to be fighting, or wouldn't normally be fighting anyway, because they're like main NPCs.
Right.
And a lot of the other ones are monsters that have already been released, like Redcap, Quickling, Corrid, Boggles.
Things that are normally seen in the Feywild anyway from other books. They just put them all into one area, so you'd have them inside this source book if you run this campaign.
Right. And they do have the Harengon and stuff, but they're super simple. It's like they have a bow attack, and you're like, okay, that's not very interesting. I like to see interesting monsters. They do have the Jabberwock, which is a dragon that's kind of creepy and shoots laser beams out of its eyes, which is probably the coolest monster on there. There's not much on the monster side of things, and the magic items are kind of the same thing. A lot of the stuff that's on there is already from either Xanathars or is a reflavored something. Like, there's some special items, I won't again spoil anything, special items that are reskinned with maybe sentience or something, where it's just an item from the Dungeon Master's Guide that they just added sentience to and called it something else, which, I mean, it's kind of annoying when they do that, because if you don't know the item originally, you think, oh, it's a new item, and you're like, wait, this sounds familiar. If you're not familiar with all the magic items, then you might just think it's new, but there's not really much on there, so I'm a little sad on that. But I think the theme and the flavor of this adventure is very different and very interesting if you're looking for something a little bit more whimsical and like a dark fantasy kind of thing. So to each their own. If you're a DM, it's definitely worth looking into at the very least.
Yeah.
But as a player, doesn't make the most sense to me.
Right, because there's just not a lot of content for you as a player in there.
Right. But yeah, I don't know if there's really much more to say. If you have anything?
Not really.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
The lack of the owl folk upsets me the most.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. But, you know, it is what it is. But that will keep it there, guys.
Yep.
Definitely interesting. If you're a DM, worth checking out at the very least. If you're a player, I mean...
Up to you.
It's, up to you, but you probably won't miss out too much if you pass on it.
This is true.
But that's all for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, when our new videos come out. And as always, thanks for watching.